Like literally, I've been away for a month and I've finished 10 things. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 21 of the Spring Snowflake Podcast. 21 feels like a milestone. Did you get like a key when you're 21? I didn't. We bought a shiny key this last week, but I'll tell you all about that in Life Update. My name is Sophie. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Sophie Swan, Sophie Xuan. It's Vietnamese, it's my middle name. I love my parents. There is also an Instagram profile for this podcast, which is a Spring Snowflake, all one word. There is a podcast group on Ravelry for us, which is a Spring Snowflake Podcast, I think. It's really active at the moment because of the one of the alongs that I'm running, which is really cool, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. If you wanted to support the podcast, there's also a Ko-fi account for one-off support, or there is also our Patreon community. All of the links will be down below and also in a blog post, which will be where the show notes are for this episode. There's a lot to talk about today because for those of you who've been here for the past 20, now 21 episodes, you'll know that I've been off for a month, and the reason for that is half-term holiday. I was planning to podcast, well I did actually film this entire podcast 2 weeks ago before half term, and then I just didn't edit it. So I thought, and then my daughter broke up from preschool for 2 weeks, and you don't get anything done during the holidays. So I just decided to film it again. So some of this will feel like deja vu to me, and I may stop and go, have I said this before? But I thought rather than give you a podcast that was filmed 2 weeks ago, I'd actually just let you know what I've been doing over the last month. So I hope that's okay with you. I'm looking, as usual, my show notes are on my computer, which is over there. So if I look over there, it's because I'm trying to get myself back on track from the ramble that this is. I'm gonna say first up, for new viewers, welcome. Hi, thanks for giving the podcast a shot. There's loads of podcasts out there, and for people who come and watch me ramble on about my crafting for an hour-ish, I really appreciate you coming over. You guys who've come back and have been here with me since I started, you know I love you guys so much, and if I could give each and every one of you a hug, I would. And I quite often do if I see you around. So I got spotted. Did I tell you I got spotted at the Southern Wool Show? Someone came up to me. Damn it, what was her name? I'm gonna put her name here. She was lovely, and she was like, oh my god, you're Sophie, and I went, oh my god, I've been spotted for the first time, this is weird. Anyway, I digress. So today we are talking about CALs, or alongs, that I am running. There are two. We also have finished objects. I have a half finished object. I have whips. I have a queue. I have carrots. I'll explain that later. I have my spotlight, and I have a life update. So this will be a long episode, mainly because I've got 10 finished objects, including the half. So yes. Exciting. The other thing I need to tell you about is the craft bank. So I, as well as modding my own Ravelry group, I also helped mod on the craft bank, which was an idea by Lisa of Lisa Raspberry Crochet on Instagram. I completely forget what her Instagram, not her Ravelry handle is. It's not Lisa Raspberry Crochet. Anyway, so it was brought up by Lisa, and I helped mod the group, and it is a place to for people to basically pay it forward. So much like you do in the UK, we have food banks for those who are of lower means and can't afford, basically can't afford to feed their families because of any kind of circumstances. There are food banks and charities to help people feed themselves and their families. The craft bank isn't quite as much of an emergency situation as a food bank is, but it's a place for people to pay it forward. So those who are slightly more fortunate to offer to buy patterns for people, to de-stash yarn, either for free or at a very reduced amount. De-stash equipment. I've got rid of like a set of interchangeable needles on there, sent over to someone. And basically just a place, if you are of lower means, go in there. If there's nothing that kind of catches your fancy, then ask as well. We are a inclusive, supportive, non-judgmental group, and if you're struggling, whether it's a temporary struggle or it's something slightly more permanent, we're here. We have absolutely no judgment. If you are looking for something and you just can't find it within your budget, come and have a chat with us, and we will be very happy to help. There are a lot of lovely people in that group. So that's the craft bank. First things first, what am I wearing? I'm wearing my Treasure Island shawl. I love this pattern. I've made 2 so far. The Treasure Island shawl is a pattern by Hannah of the Cozy Cottage Crochet. She's a fabulous person. She's a fabulous designer. She has been churning those designs out this year. She's slowed down a little bit in recent months, but I'm not surprised because she's been stupidly busy. If you don't watch her podcast, go and watch her podcast. She is one of the nicest people on the internet. And she's just started. She's starting a new church. Now, I'm not very religious, but I know that starting a new church and running a church is a massive undertaking, and she's doing it. It's astounding. Anyway, this is her pattern. It's the Treasure Island shawl. It's a crochet, 1 skein of 4 ply. It's a lovely pattern, but it's really adaptable, so I would urge you. So I did it in 1 skein of fingering weight yarn. This is a 50/50 merino silk from Townhouse Yarns. They're based out of Dublin in Ireland, and it's gorgeous. This was their colourway for the Tits Out collective that was run by Countess Ablaze earlier this year. Really good charity initiative that happened this year. This is so bright. I love this colour. I love this colourway, and there are 2 shawls in my collection that if I'm feeling a bit meh, I'll put these on and I'll instantly feel better and I'll feel just uplifted. This is one of them. So yeah, fabulous pattern. It's really adaptable. It's written for fingering weight yarn, but you can do it in any size as long as you've got enough yardage. A really, really good person to show as an example of how you can adapt this pattern to heavier weights of yarn is Charlie of Love Charlie on Instagram. I'll pop a link to her in the show notes. She has, I think she's made like 10 of this pattern because it's such a nice pattern to do in all sorts of different weights, and she's just finished 2 as part of the Whip Rip in 2019 along that Faye and I are running, which I'll come on to now. So I am helping to co-running 2 alongs at the moment. The first of which is, or the most recent of which is the Whip Rip 2019. This I'm hosting with Faye of the Crochet Circle podcast. We basically, at one of her global hookups, went, we need like end of year, let's wipe the slate clean by 2020 finish alongs. So I agreed to host the chatter thread in my podcast Ravelry group, and Faye is hosting the finished object thread in her podcast Ravelry group. Links again will be in the show notes. And it is basically an encouragement for you to dig those whips out. You can do new stuff as well. There are very few rules. Really, the only rule is that you get stuff finished, you post it in the FO thread, you come and talk to us about it in the chatter thread. As long as it is done and in the Ravelry FO thread by midnight, your midnight on the 31st of December this year, it counts. It could have been something that you started in 2015, like one of my blankets, or it could be something that you start now. We don't care. We don't care about start date. What we care about is about finish date. It is open to any crafts, so knitting, crochet, weaving, sewing, spinning, any other thing, macrame, pottery. Literally, I don't care. Faye doesn't care either. If it's something that you want to get done by the end of December so that you can start 2020 fresh. Also, if you've got a whip and you've been looking at it and you can sit and you're kind of going, there's a reason I haven't touched it for a year, rip it out, show us a before and after picture, put it in the FO thread. Technically that is a finished object because you've made the decision to finish your time on that project and rip it out. So show us what it looked like before you started ripping, and then the ball of yarn if it's a project. Okay, so that's why we called it the Whip Rip 2019. So links below There will be prizes. I've got a few, which is quite cool. And I think Faye will come up with a few as well, so we'll, nearer the end of the year, Faye and I will coordinate on that. But yeah, come and join us. The other along I am running is a closed along right now. We will be running it again next year though, and that is the Craft Bank gift along. So that's part of the Craft Bank Ravelry group. You signed up, there are 31 participants, we all got partners, and we are making gifts for other people. We came up with the idea because no one appreciates a handmade gift more than a person who makes handmade gifts, and particularly in the run up to Christmas, it's really nice to receive something that someone's put a lot of heart and soul and love into and that you haven't had to do. So I will show you the progress I am making on my gift. And even if you're not taking part, please do come into the chatter thread and have a look at what we're talking about. And there has been some gifts posted so far, which has been really exciting. A few of us, most of us are keeping it a secret, so we're kind of just chatting rather than posting pictures and stuff like that. But it's a really nice little group, and that is being hosted on the Craft Bank Ravelry group. Okay. We've done what I'm wearing, we've done alongs. Let's move on to finished objects, shall we? So, as I said, I am taking part in my own cal. I am not putting anything in the finished object thread. Oh, if you do complete finished objects and you can post them in the Ravelry group, you can also put them on Instagram. So the hashtag is WhipRip2019. If you finish any objects, use that same hashtag but put FO on the end of it. So WhipRip2019 FO. And then when Faye and I are pulling prizes for Instagram, it means we can just search on that hashtag rather than the main hashtag. So do go and have a look at that as well. So yeah, pretty much everything I'm working on is taking part in the Whip Rip. I have added quite a lot. I posted, if you go onto the Spring Snowflake Podcast Instagram feed, I posted all of my whips a couple of weeks ago, yeah, just before half term, and there's a lot of them, and I got rid of a few and then I've added a few because of Christmas gift knitting commissions, all that kind of stuff, and crocheting. So I'm also taking part in the Before 2020 Mal, which is run by Laura of The Lonely Knitter. She decided that some circumstances happened, it's her story to tell, and she decided that she would do an along all by herself before 2020, called the Before 2020 Mal, which is basically, again, it's a finish along. Anything that you started after the 19th of October, no, anything that you finished after the 19th of October up until the end of the year, you can go and post that in her Ravelry group, which is The Lonely Knitter. If you don't watch The Lonely Knitter podcast, then please do. She's a fab, lovely friend, pregnant with her second baby at the moment, having so many medical issues with that, which is just hideous. Like, pregnancy is bad enough for a lot of people, but to then have issues as well is not fun. But she's a fab friend, and I'm really happy to be taking part in her make along. It also means I can actually like post finished object pictures in a finished object thread that's not my make along. Small things. Right, let's go with order of finished first. So first things first, I'm going to take this off because what I'm going to show you requires a neck. So I had a ball of Wooler yarn. They're, I can't, slimline base? Yes, slimline base. So it's a bulky, chunky yarn, hand spun merino. So what Kaz of Wooler does, W-U-L-L-A, is she hand spins dyes in that order or not in that order. So basically it's from fibre to yarn. So she dyes and hand spins most of her yarn. And I bought a skein, or a ball of this yarn in the Siren colour. I think it's the Siren colourway. Oh, when did I do that? Unravel this year. Might have been Yarndale last year, actually. I've had this yarn a little while. And it was about 70-ish metres, and I didn't really know what to do with it about it. I just knew I loved the colours. And I needed something that was a quick win. And it ended up not being a quick win because I kind of made up this pattern by myself. And when you do that, you kind of have to frog and remake, but it was bulky yarn and it didn't take me that long. So I made a head/neck warmer. I love how this colour has pulled. It doesn't go all the way around, but oh, I love it. It just is so cool. And it's basically either a bulky head warmer or a quite close fitting neck warmer. This I'm going to take skiing with me, because for those of you who do ski, and if you are a safe skier, you wear a helmet, and your helmet comes down to about here. And then you've got your jacket, which it will come up to your to the back of your neck, but there's always a small sliver of space that if you're not wearing a buff or I'm going to take this off because I'm really warm, or a hoodie under your ski jacket, there's always a little bit of your neck that gets cold. This is going to really help that, and it means that when I stop for lunch, I can, because helmet hair, I can then put it over my head and it just covers the mess that is my hair for when I'm having lunch. So this I did, it's a 3x1 rib. I cast on 40 stitches on I think it was a 10mm needle. Yeah, I think it was it was the biggest one in my chow goose. 10mm needle, 40 stitches, 3x1 rib. Done. I started off casting on about 60 stitches and then realised it would be like this and too loose. And then by the time I got it to a nice height, it got to about 40. So that was the first one. It also fits my little girl's head and she loves putting it on her head. I'll post a picture, but pop a picture there. She thought it was hilarious. So for 2 people as well. So 2 in 1 for 2 people. Win. Right. And it means that I've got that lovely skein used. I don't just have it sitting in my stash being unused. So I'm happy with that. I'm putting my Treasure Island shawl back on because I feel very blah in just my grey t-shirt without it. Right, next one. So this I don't have because I made it as a very quick gift. I'll put a picture here. This is the pattern is called, oh, here we go. Super Soft Merino Hats for Everyone by Pearl Soho. I made I then used a perla bead pattern to come up with the boat motif. It is a chunky hat out of Paint Box Wool Mix Chunky in the, I think it's the wine colourway. We went to see my mother-in-law for a very early Thanksgiving lunch, because her siblings were over. 2 of them live in America and 1 of them lives in the Channel Islands on a tiny island called Sark. And they were all over, so her 3 siblings and her were all together, and that very rarely happens because 2 of them live in America. So we all went over, our little family, my brother-in-law and his son, my nephew and the 4 siblings. So we all piled into my mother-in-law's not big house, and I decided that seeing as we hadn't actually seen Bill, my great uncle-in-law, and Molly, my great aunt-in-law, pretty much I think since our wedding, and we've been married for 13 years this December, I thought I'd take a few presents. So I rifled through my basket of shawls, picked out a few that I don't really wear that much. So my Fanula shawl by Ava Nee that I made for Woolen this year, and also my Tunisian adventure shawl, the one that got lost at the M6 toll services and then that it came back because they found it. The colours just aren't me, so I love that shawl. I'm making another one. Don't worry, Sharon, I'm making another one. But the colours just aren't me in the end, so I took those 2 shawls and I went, well, I can't give Bill a shawl, so I'll make him a hat. So I made him a chunky hat with it's reversible because it has a pearl stitch kind of just motif of a boat he sails, and it's reversible because you can turn it inside out, and it's the reverse stockinette with the knit. Yeah, so it was an evening's worth of knitting. It meant everyone got a present, and it was, yeah, it's a really nice hat as well, so I'm definitely making more of that pattern. Free pattern on Ravelry by Pearl Soho. Most of their patterns are, well, quite a lot of their patterns are free. Next, let's do more gifts which haven't been given yet. So there is a brand new baby arriving in our family to one of the cousins, and we are all meeting up at Christmas, early December, for our Christmas gathering. It's what we do with my father-in-law and his side of the family every year, just so we have less people that we have to run around the actual Christmas period. It's quite a sensible thing to do, really. It does mean I have to do Christmas shopping and making a lot earlier than a lot of other people. But yeah, so there is a baby boy arriving in early January to one of Chris's cousins. So I decided to make a hat and a matching blanket. So first things first, I made another beloved bonnet. I did not plan for it to be symmetrical, and it is. This is totally, yeah, totally not planned at all, but I love the fact that it's done it. This is a fabulous pattern by, it's called the Beloved Bonnet by Tin Can Knits. It is a paid for pattern, but it's so worth it. I've now made 4 of these. 3? I actually have no idea how many I've made. But I love this pattern, it's so intuitive. It goes up to adult size from newborn. This is the newborn size, but it came out a little bit big because this yarn is slightly bigger than a DK to me. It is by Ice Yarns, it is 100% acrylic. It's really soft. This is deep stash. This is some of the first yarn I bought online through Instagram after the whole Hobbycraft, Stylecraft yarn start off, as it were. So yeah, really, really happy with it. So if this has been put in the washing machine on a wool cycle, and then it went into the dryer for 30 minutes, and then the rest of it was just dried over on my Aera, so it's gone really soft. And this it's definitely bigger than newborn. It's the newborn size I knit, but obviously my tension has loosened off a little bit. And then to match, I made this kind of an improvised, it's using a pattern but then improvised. So this is a 4x3 blanket. I have no idea the dimensions, but this pattern is based off of the Moss Stitch in a Square, yes, pattern by, I think it's Sarah Zimmerman, but I'm not sure, so I'll put it down here. There's a link in the show notes to my project page, which also links to the pattern. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, it's on her blog, and I did 17 rounds of the main colour. This is the same yarn, this Ice Yarns, it's called Dancing Baby, and it's the blue turquoise white colourway, but there are a fair few knots in a couple of the balls, so there's a few of these that are true, like, end to end in the same yarn, and there's a few of these that had knots, so the yarn colour sequence was disturbed. I then did a join as you go technique, still in Moss Stitch, if you can see there. Join as you go technique to join them up. I joined this during the Rugby World Cup final, England versus South Africa. It was a horrible match. South Africa was so much better than us. They totally deserved to be World Cup winners. I think we basically expended all our energy on beating New Zealand in the semi-final, and circumstances, like the team's coach was 20 minutes late for getting there, so they didn't have enough time to kind of prep, and they had to get out. Anyway, they weren't a good side. England were amazing against the All Blacks in the semi-finals, and I think that, plus circumstances on the day of the match, plus South Africa were their defence was, like, literally there was nothing getting through their defence. They were good, and their scrum just, yeah. So I think some of the stitches on here are a little bit tight because I was joining this during the South Africa-England final. But yeah, so I got all of this done in one day. I think I did about 7 squares of the 12 during the final, and then the rest throughout the rest of the day as on a join as you go technique. So so basically with join as you go, you kind of, on the first square you do 3 sides, and then you do 2 sides, and then you basically kind of go in a zigzag around and then down, and then zigzag around and then down, and it's Pinterest is the best place. If you put continuous join as you go into Pinterest, there's some great diagrams that show you what you need to do. So yes, and then I put I think it was, let's work this out, 2 more rounds of moss stitch around the entire blanket, and then I did this kind of scalloped edging, and it kind of worked out for the most part. On the corners I kind of riffed it a little bit, and then I finished it off with one of my little tags, which is a Spring Snowflake handmade by Sophie. These are pleather. So yes, so that will all be wrapped up nicely in tissue paper and taken to our little gathering. I think it's the first weekend of December we're all meeting up in a nice little parcel with one of my little care labels from Faye at Knit It Hook It. So it's got care instructions on it. Let's see if it'll do it, if it'll show you. There you go. No, they're really good. If you ever want kind of little hello, hi. If you ever want to, like, there's lots of templates and stuff you can download, but if you want really nice, well made, you know they're coming from a good kind of sustainable source or anything like that, go to Faye at Knit It Hook It Craft It, who's also the Crochet Circle podcast. She's got some fabulous little tag things that you can add to handmade gifts. So, right, that's those ones. What's next? Another one that I don't have anymore. My brother-in-law has commissioned me to do a couple of things for him in the past, particularly for the logo of the company he works for. So my brother-in-law's an osteopath, and he works within a clinic that's kind of a bit more holistic. And one of their, I think, Pilates instructors had just had a baby, or was, when he commissioned me, she was literally about to have the baby, and she now has had the baby. And he commissioned me to make a logo blanket for her new baby. And he basically gives me free rein in terms of, as long as it has the logo on it, he's happy whatever I make. So I decided to do a Aran Weight corner to corner colourwork blanket. And I'm going to put a photo here of the finished item. I really love doing like the Pixel logo blankets. You can go onto, there's a website I think called Pixel Logo, but I'll pop a link down in the show notes for the Pixel creator website that I used. But literally you put a JPEG in and tell it how many pixels you want. Like mine I think was 34 by 34, and it will generate what it does it as an embroidery pattern, because like, or cross stitch pattern, but you can use it for corner to corner blocks, and you basically just follow it, counting your stitches. So the logo has 4 colours in it, plus I had the main colour background. At one point I think I was managing about 12 balls of yarn. I'll pop another picture here to show you kind of, and the ends, like literally this thing was a jellyfish by the end because I wasn't sewing my ends in as I went. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I ran out of the main colour yarn with about like that much to go, which was really annoying. So I had to wait to order some more from Lovecrafts. But it was fine. It was fine. I got more yarn. And I finished it, sent it off to Jim. And it's been well received. So yay. Done, gone. Can't show you, sorry. But you've had a picture. So next thing, I have a small obsession now, and it's for gnomes. So I was kind of ish following along with the gnome along that happened this year that a few people were taking part in, particularly Kalisha of the Quirky Monday podcast, also known as Nadira Tani on Instagram and on Ravelry, and she was doing the Oh Gnome You Didn't Cal for this year. So I went and had a look at the pattern, and then I went and had a look at the patterns, the other patterns by this designer, and she has a pattern, kind of the simplest kind of entry-level pattern for gnomes called Never Not Gnoming, and I made one for my mum. I've given it to her for her birthday. Here's a picture. And that's the ornament size. I made it out of DK, not fingering weight as the yarn, as the pattern suggests, but basically just sized up my needles a little bit. And I really enjoyed making that out of scraps. That was the scraps from my brother's Christmas socks from last year. So I made 2 more. Let me show you. And I cast these on at the same time. I love them. So this is the medium size, which should be the same size as the ornament. This one is made out of Yarn and Colours Charming and Shepier's Stone Washed. So it's a sport weight rather than a DK. And this is made to match a little hat that is going to the lovely Laura of the Lonely Knitter. So her little boy to be, he's due in December, is getting a hat that I test crocheted for Sam of the Sam Squeak podcast, and is also a designer. So let me get that out of this bag quickly to show you. So this is the hat that I made. This is the Winding Rivers hat pattern, and I edited it slightly to have the striping pattern in it as a kind of helical crochet, and I used scraps to make the hat of the gnome. I love this thing. So he is quite fluffy. There's a lot of halo to him. So yeah, so the top of the peak of his hat is Shepia Stonewashed. There's Charming is the yellow and the green. The dark blue of his body is Stonewashed, as is the lighter blue of his arms. The pink of his nose is just an alpaca DK that I used for some mitts last year that I just had hanging around, and some Stellcraft special DK in white for his beard. So yes, so these are heading off today. Now that I filmed this podcast and before it gets published, I'm sending these off to the lovely Laura, along with a little present for her. And that'll be her new baby big sister gift. It's going in a handmade project bag by me as well, so Laura gets a little gift. And then the bigger gnome, this is the larger size. He is blooming awesome. So he is made out of the kind of the green down to the purple, some variegated yarn that went into my it's worsted weight that went into my American Octagons blanket that I made. Well, I started making it when we were in America in 2014, and I finished it earlier this year. And then the two oranges were the very last remnants of the sock yarn from my brother's socks from Christmas last year. And then the blue blue and green variegated is the leftovers, not all of it, but some of the leftovers from my dad's Christmas socks last year. All DK weight. Again, the same pink alpaca and the same white Starcraft Special DK. But this pattern is so good for using up scraps. Like I have these jars behind me which are all sorts of different weight scraps that are kind of enough, like more than 5 meters, say, of scrap yarn. So enough that it doesn't have to go, I don't put it in my scrap bag, but I can still use it. So I'm really happy that with these. This is also going in a swap parcel that I am taking part in with a couple of other things. So I am taking part in the Flora Honeypot Helen, her Christmas swap. So this is my handmade item that's going to my swap partner. Hopefully she won't see this before I post it out. I'm going to post it out with Laura's stuff. I don't actually know what time it is. Let's see what time it is. Still 1:05, so I've got time before the school pick-up. So I'm going to parcel this up today with a couple of other bits, and it's going off to my swap partner for their Christmas swap, so that'll be lovely. So yes, 3 gnomes in 2 weeks-ish. So much fun to make, complete distraction, but so half term, I'll talk more about it in life update, but I lost my mojo for a lot of stuff and I was kind of in a bit of a funk. So having the quick wins, the gnomes, that neck warmer, having the hat, even the squares in the blanket, because there were only 17 rounds, you could get one done really quickly. So it was all about the quick wins in the last couple of weeks, just to kind of get me out of my funk a little bit. So those are the... No, one more finished object. Oh my god, this is going to be long, guys, I'm sorry. This I finished yesterday and she wasn't allowed to take it to school, or rather I didn't show it to her. So Amelia, my little girl, she's at preschool, and one of the things they've said to us in the kind of this is what they need to bring with them stuff is for winter she needs a hat, she needs gloves or mittens and a scarf, and she didn't have a scarf. And I wasn't gonna buy a scarf for my small person, so I made her one. And I had one of my kind of precious skeins of Aran weight yarn, hand-dyed Aran weight yarn, that I didn't really know what to do with, but I bought it because it was gorgeous, was a skein of Hey J 100% merino Aran weight yarn. It's 166 metres for 100 grams, and it was in the summer solstice colour. And this is what it turned into. And I blooming love the colour pooling on this thing. It makes me so happy. So, this is more corner to corner. So, I've got 6 blocks across, and I think it's like 63, but I literally went until I couldn't, I didn't have any more. I think I ended up with about 2 meters of yarn left, so that's gone in there. I didn't want to put it in my scraps, in my like the ends bag. I didn't want to put it in there because it's just beautiful yarn. But yes, can you see why I love this colour? I only realised this yesterday because I brought this up to put in my shawl box, and I went, it's just slightly more muted. Of course, that's why I bought it. This I actually bought at the Fibre Lounge when they still had their bricks and mortar shop on their birthday party day. So yes, it is about 120, yeah, 63 blocks long, is about 120, 130 centimetres. So so I did some Googling about how big a toddler / small person scarf should be, and basically it was as long as they are tall. And Amelia is 104 almost centimetres now. She's a tall 3.5-year-old. Isn't surprising, her daddy's 6'5", and I'm not exactly short. So yeah, it worked out really well. I have kept it without tassels, without pom-poms, just completely unadorned, because when she does grow out of this, which won't be for a while, I can then repurpose the yarn for something else. Something like, it might be a hat for her when she's bigger, or I can make it into a cowl, like a bigger cowl for her. This is her yarn because Mummy's got a shawl that is this colourway already. But yes, so this will go with her to school tomorrow. Right, half finished object time. So, Kimberly, this is my craft bank gift along gift. So Kimberly, if you are watching this, please go away until this timestamp. Okay, so Kimberly, I've shown this a couple of times on the podcast. Kimberly asked for knitted socks. She is a crocheter. I think she had, I can't remember if she knits a little bit, but she's never made herself socks. And she said, I'd like some socks. These are my favourite colours. It'd be fab if there was some cabling on them. And I took that challenge up, and I have a half finished object. I love it. This pattern is the Rianne pattern, which is by Verity of Truly Hooked. She's known as Verity Castledine Designs. It is a mock cable, so it's actually just increases and decreases. Yarn overs for the holes, but yeah, it's a mock cable design. The colourway is River Knits Shroom, and then they've one of their minis. This is in BFL 4-ply, so it's hardy yarn. I actually finished this a couple of weeks ago. This went in the podcast episode that I filmed before but never edited. And I only just cast on the second sock today. That's kind of how much of a funk I've been in. Now, Kimberly has really long feet. She's probably about a UK size 10. She's in America. So this is where my sock blocker ends. So just to show you kind of the toe, it's just a standard wedge toe. Yeah, 1x1 twisted rib, the pattern. This is an Eye of Partridge heel, and I love it. I got to about halfway down the heel flap and realised that I hadn't changed colours to the purple, and then I just kept going because I wasn't going to rip that out. But it's a lovely colourway. The pattern, it shows off the pattern actually, I think, quite well without being too busy. Yeah, but it's beautiful in stockinette as well. Focus, please, thank you. So yeah, Shroom colourway. I really like it. Becky and Marcus are really good at colours. The Shroom colourway is just, it's just a beautiful colourway, and perfectly autumnal. So yes, I am 2 rows into the rib of the second sock. So it's not even worth showing you, but I will show you the project bag that it's in. This is by the Little Grey Girl. It's one of her pyramid sock bags that she made specifically for Bernie of Bear in Sheep's Clothing. I have my Gin and Bear It pin with his glittery jumper. That's important. I'll tell you why in a bit. I also have my Hey J Yarns Don't Be a Dick sparkly pin, and the Bear in Sheep's Clothing kilt pin which she made for Perth Festival of Yarn, which she lovingly gave to me at Yarndale. Thank you, Bernie, you're a star. I'm doing this on DPNs because it seems that DPNs are now my in the round method of choice. Who knew? And the DPNs are living in my Little Grey Girl, one of my Little Grey Girl DPN holders, and literally I'm not even going to open it. I'm two rows in. So that will now be I'm trying to be monogamous to get things done, so that will be my knitting project of choice, and then I will go back to my blankets now that some of the gift stuff is made, so that I can have a crochet project on the go, as well as my temperature blanket, which I'll show you in a bit. The reason why there is sparkle, so I have my Die Candy sparkly, this was her Yarndale exclusive that she was giving out to people, and then I've got two kind of sparkly disco ball type stitch markers attached to this bag, and will be attached to the project once it's a little bit further on, is because these are also my Strictly socks. So the Strictly Sock Along 2019, which is being run by the lovely Ali of Starry Eyes Ali and the Little Drops of Wonderful podcast. She's got a new channel as well. Her family are loving vlogging, so she's got two daughters, and her husband's, I'm a Dan fan. I'm more of an Ali fan though, Dan, so don't get too excited. But yeah, they're really into their vlogging now, so they've started a new channel called This Little Wonderful Life. I'll pop a link, I'll try and remember to pop a link in the show notes. So they have started a new vlogging channel, which is, there's some really sweet little videos on there, so do go and subscribe, as well as go and watch her podcast on Little Drops of Wonderful. So yeah, so these are my Strictly socks. Technically you should only be working on them when you are watching Strictly or any of these shows that are linked to Strictly. If you're watching Dancing with the Stars in a different country, all that kind of stuff. But I cannot work on these while watching Strictly because I am a former ballroom and Latin dancer. It's what I did with my time when I was a teenager. So I'm one of those annoying people that you cannot watch Strictly with, because I rewind it, I check frame, I look at footwork, I tell people to watch their posture, I'm like, head, where was that heel turn? Literally, I'm a horrible person to watch Strictly with. So I can't concentrate on knitting. So what I do is I bank the time. So I watch it, I have something very simple. So like that C2C scarf was really easy because I don't actually have to look at that very much. I tend to be able to do granny stitch and UK trebles, not into stitches, so into holes rather than into stitches, without looking. I'm not quite there with knitting yet, but any kind of slightly more complicated, or something where in crochet where the hook has to go in a specific place that's not just a hole, yeah, I can't do that. So I have something very simple for watching Strictly. So like my Truly Hooked blanket is really good for watching Strictly with because it's just granny stitch. So yeah, so I bank the time, and however much time I've watched Strictly, I can then work on this separately. And also, because of all the glitter and the sparkles and the disco balls on the project bag, that's what Strictly's all about, is the glitter and the sparkles. So pretty much I can work on these whenever because I've got the glitter and the sparkles attached to the bag. That's my rule breaking and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, so yes, half finished object, I'm on to the next sock. Yay! Because I am being monogamous. Let me just move my thingies down. Because I'm trying to be as monogamous as possible to get things done, I've only got 3 whips. So my temperature blanket, which I try and work on every day, I am quite far behind. I think I'm about 5 days behind at the moment. my focusing is, there we go. I'm going to pop a photo in because it's getting too big to show on camera now. So I'll pop a photo in of my progress so far of my temperature blanket. I took some of the yarn out of the blanket this week because I'm not going to need the summer colours now, because it's not like I'm going to need the colour for like anything above 24 degrees Celsius anymore, because we're in winter now. Why are you being weird? That's better. So the bag is a lot lighter, but the blanket is huge now, so I'm really happy with the size it is now, and obviously I've still got 2 months to do. So yes, I'm going to try and catch up probably tonight, take a picture, put it in the edit so that you can see up until today is the, oh here we go, what date is it? It's the 7th of November today, so by the time this goes up for patrons it'll be the 8th of November, maybe the 9th, and then it'll go out to YouTube on the 10th or 11th, because I always give 48 hours preview to my patron community, included, that's all tiers of my Patreon community. Okay, so the other blanket, again, I'm going to show you this as a picture rather than holding up, is my Truly Hooked Blanket Club. So this, now all the yarn has come out. I got blanket 10 and it's been in the freezer and out of the freezer. I've got the last colours, so that these feel bigger than 20 grams. The last colours came in the post. So we've got all the blues, so it ends with the blues. So I've started with the purples and the pinks, ends with blues. I'm really happy with that. And one last skein of the undyed. I am not going to use all the undyed, so that will go into my stash and be used for other things like hats and stuff. And probably the edging of my advent blanket when I get round to it, probably. So yeah, that's working out really well. I will pop the picture of my progress so far in here. I am one colour of pack 9 in, so that again I'm going to be catching up with that probably this weekend while I watch Strictly. And then last but by no means least is my next crochet project. For some reason it's not, oh, what I'll do though is quickly show you the bag. This is the bag that my Truly Hooked Blanket Club bag is in. This is a bag by, it's one of her large cube bags by Thimble Thread and Make. I have a My Crochet Makes pin on one side which says Hook, Yarn, Dream, Repeat, and then I have a Crochet Luna badge on here that says Nobody puts crochet in the corner. This is beautiful and pink lined. I've said before on previous podcasts that I really love Tracy's bags because she puts poppers in on the lining, so that if you want to put pin badges in there, the pin backs don't interfere with whatever is in your project bag, because you can put them inside the lining, which is really great. So yes, those are my 2 blankets. Temperature blanket should be done every day and will be done by the 31st of December, so that will be going into my, well, that will be part of the whip rip, and I'm hoping that I can put the last couple of like do a border and do the last stitches on the 31st of December. It should be doable, because I take the temperature from 12 noon, so that gives me 12 hours to do that last square and do the border. I think that's doable. There, so the last project is living in my Hide and Hammer 03 dark blue with the neon stitching that the lovely New gave me as payment for helping her at Woolen. And I have basically what looks like a bowl. It's not. It's not what looks like a bowl. But this is going to be an octopus. The pattern is called Claude the Octopus. I am not naming him at the moment because that will be my little girl's job. This is her Christmas present. So the lovely Holly, who is Holly_Pips, I think, on Instagram, put up a photo of an octopus that she made for her little boy Milo about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and Amelia was looking over my shoulder when I was looking at Instagram, and she went, "Oh, octopus! Mummy, octopus!" And I went, "Do you want Mummy to make you an octopus for Christmas?" "Yes, yes, yes." Let me post a picture of what it should look like. I am making this out of Shepier's Stonewashed XL, which is their Aran weight version of Stonewashed, in 4 colours. So in here I love this bag. Ooh, there's some dirt on it. How did I get that done? So I've got it folded down as a bucket, and what I do to carry it around the house is I get the handle and also the stud closure as a kind of handle. So in here are all through 4 colours. So I've got the blue as the main, the grey is going to be kind of the edging, these are going to be the suckers on his tentacles, and this is going to be the background colour on his tentacles. He's going to be big, because this is, so I've used, oh no, I dropped him. I've dropped him. I've used one, this is one skein of this Shep Piers, and they come in 50-gram balls. So that's kind of the top of his head. We are on the, I'm about to start doing decreases. Yes. So yeah, he is going to be quite large. It's not, wait a minute. It's not quite big enough for my head. But he's going to be about the size of Amelia's head. My stitch marker, which is showing where I started the round, because it's done in continuous rounds, is my little blue panda from the Corner of Craft. I love her beaded stitch markers. They're really light. They don't pull at your yarn or the hooks or the loops or anything like that. So those are my works in progress. I have obviously other projects on the go, or rather that are kind of languishing at the moment, and if you wanted to go and have a look, there is a link to my projects page on Ravelry in the show notes. Okay, lastly, I have been designing scary stuff. So in here, in my Disney Cath Kidston, this is a little makeup bag, is a hook. This is one of my felt hooks. A notebook, I'm not going to get it out, and a ball of yarn, which is the leftovers from my, this is River Knits BFLDK in the Ant Dank colourway, which means harvest. This lovely kind of grubby mustard. It's the leftovers from my Truly Hooked, the cardigan that lived, and I am making a shawl. Well, no, it's a cowl. I'm designing a cowl, and it's going to have cables on it. So it's going to be a kind of central cable. Well, it's going to have a central cable down the middle of a kind of a triangular short cowl. I will also eventually design it as a shawl. That's my plan anyway. I'm starting, there's some smaller cables that will kind of run up vertically around as well, and then once I kind of get to the width around that I want to do it, it'll straighten up and then it'll be seamed down the back. But yes, I'm designing, which is a little bit scary, and I hope that I'll be able to get it done. I hope to get the design done by Christmas, and then it'll need to be tested and tech edited, and there's a couple of tech editors that I'm going to be approaching to see what their rates are and stuff like that. There aren't that many crochet tech editors in the UK, and I want to keep it in the UK because local. So I'm going to be approaching a couple of the ones that I know about and see what they can do. So yes, exciting. It's slow going. I'm not picking it up every day. There's other things that I need to get done first, like Christmas presents and stuff, and this isn't a priority, but it will become more so once I've finished some of the gifts and stuff like that. Right. Q. Things I need to get done, probably, well, I'm hoping to get done before the 1st of December because I'll explain why in a bit. Amelia does have some commercial gloves. They're fingerless gloves with a flap over, but she's still not very good at getting her fingers into the actual little finger holes. So I thought I'd do her some, do the tinsel mitts pattern by Andrea Mowry, which is just a fingerless like mitts, one opening, and then it has the flap as well, which will just be easier I think for her. So I'm going to make those out of, there's 2 options, I haven't decided yet. Either this is Starcraft Special DK in the magenta colourway, or this is Ice Yarns, I can't remember what it's a 100% acrylic DK, but I was thinking, I don't know which, this one would definitely go with that, and obviously it's acrylic so it would be far more hard wearing, but this has also got the same kind of pink purple in it. This would probably get more grubby, so I'm leaning towards this pink to do those tinsel mitts in. So that's kind of an ASCP so that she has something easy to wear over her hands. I am like... I'm probably going to do a couple of crochet washcloths for Christmas gifts, which need to be made. I'm going to be making some leg warmers out of Aran weight yarn, and there's a pattern that I'm going to be following called Pas de deux, which is a ballet term, free on Ravelry and in an Aran weight yarn, so I'm going to have a go at those. I am making a stripy scarf for my husband for Christmas, out of Rico Essentials Soft Merino. I am just getting it out of the bag. In these two colourways, so a dark teal and a kind of soft grey. These are 50-gram balls in Aran weight, and I'm going to be using the Hogwarts scarf pattern, which again is another free pattern on Ravelry. I'm going to be making more gnomes. I want to try the Oh Gnome You Didn't pattern because that hat's got 3 like tails, so that looks quite cool, and I've bought that pattern, so I want to have a go at that, and I want to make 4 smaller gnomes for Amelia's preschool teachers, and then I want to make a really big one out of chunky yarn, or maybe the Aran weight yarn leftovers from the logo blanket I made, because I've still got a bit of that kind of acrylic Aran, and make a big gnome for our house and put him by the fire for Christmas. So that's it. I want to make more gnomes, and my father has asked for socks for his birthday, and his birthday is in the middle of January, so that's something else that needs to be on the queue. And if I get all of those done, I've got my carrots. The carrots for getting those things done is that I get to take part in the Grinch Along, which is run by the Knitmore girls, and that starts on the 1st of December. The aim is that you're Grinchy and you don't make any gifts after the 1st of December. And then also the Blame Dunder Knit Along, which is in its 2nd year. It started already, but it's an opportunity for you to blame Caroline of the Knitting Vicariously podcast, also known as Dunder Knit, on Instagram. You can blame her for basically being selfish. So that's the Blame Dunder Knit Along. And what I want to make for those two is the Starflake shawl, which was the West Knits Mystery Knit Along this year. I know what it looks like. It's not a mystery anymore. It's been finished and I love it. I've watched like all his other alongs since I've been in the kind of the Instagram yarny world and gone, This one made me stop. So I want to make it. That's one carrot. I have no idea what yarn to use because I need to make it out of stash. I am not buying any more yarn until Unravel next year in February. I'm not planning to anyway, unless it's for gifts or commissions or design. Although I can do most of my designs out of the ideas that I have for designs out of stash. So I need to make it out of stash, and I've put a couple of options on my Ravelry group in a thread called Help Me Choose Yarn. So if you can pop over there and look at the options, or even just pop into my stash if you wanted to and go, well, she's got this, this and this. The yarn requirements for the shawl are that you need 4 skeins of yarn in 2 colours, so 2 in one and 2 in another. I don't really have that, apart from yarn that's already kind of designated for something else. So I have a couple of different yarns where I've got two skeins, but I was kind of saving them for something else. So I've put a couple of different options where I can kind of mix up the colours and things like that on my Ravelry group. Please do go have a look, and if you would like to vote for your favourite one by pressing love on that particular post. That would be helping me out greatly. There's quite a few options. One of them does involve frogging something, but I'm not that fussed about it because I just don't want to work on it anymore. So and then if I do, and also at the same time I also want to make the September hat, which was a design that was brought out by Kelborn Woolens, but the design is by Caroline Dick, who is also the designer behind the Grotine shawl, which I've done like this much on, but she's a fab BIPOC designer, and I really want to make the September hat out of Cartref yarn that I bought at Fibre East. Gorgeous. It's the red yarn. It's called Draig, which I think is dragon in Welsh. So I really want to make that as well. So that's going to be probably the thing that I cast on first, and then I can cast on the Starflake if I get everything finished. So that's that. New things. So I was very lucky. I've basically been a bit of a spoiled brat this month because I won loads of things. So first things first. So Beautiful by Nicola, who is a fabulous dyer, but also does some hand spinning. Fabulous project bag maker. Oh my god. I won a Instagram giveaway for her, so for this bag, which is lovely, with this dark denim top and bottom, and then this kind of scrappy patchwork strips of fabric. Fab little, this has been really great. I've been taking this around for the little projects like Amelia's scarf and the beloved bonnet and the squares for the blanket. So I've been using this a lot actually since it came in. It's just got a plain kind of polycotton lining with her label. Really good zip as well. So yeah, really like this bag. And then she also included in there some of her hand spun. This is my first ever hand spun. I have no idea what weight it is. It looks kind of barber pole-y, but I think eventually it will be a hat. So really, it's a really nice skein of yarn. And if it would focus on it, it would be nice. Come on. Maybe if I do that and cover my entire face. There we go. So yes, so really happy with that, with winning that. So that was really cool. I also, let's have a look, ordered some new stitch markers. So I lost, and now I have found, annoyingly, my SSK and Knit Two Together sock markers. So I decided to go on Etsy and just put in, I think it was SSK stitch marker I put in there, and it came up with a few. There was one that a person who has blocked me on Instagram, so I wasn't going to give them my business. Still don't really know why they've blocked me, but there you go. But these came from a lovely company called Copo UK, and they've got all sorts of different, if it would focus. So they are acrylic, and they've got all sorts of different little labels on them. Why are you not showing? There you go. So you've got yarn over, make one, right side. So the right side one is on a lobster clasp, and the rest are on the smallest jump rings that she does. So you've got options for how big jump rings you want if you're doing stitch markers. And I also, because I love a snowflake, she had a snowflake set, and you've seen these already in just the ball format, but she's also got ones that have got snowflakes on them, and these were on the earring clasps. That I much prefer these to lobster clasps for place markers. Place markers? Yeah, place markers. So yes, that was that one. So that was an order I placed. I also ordered the October Big Girl Pants. I'm going to show you the label, and then I will pop a photo in. This is from Jo Knit Sew, the October Big Girl Pants Club. Here's a photo of what I got. I have ordered the November one, just the pants, not the yarn. I got the yarn in the October box, but I don't need any more yarn, so I just ordered the pants for the November club. I love it. I love her pants. These are the fourth pair of Big Girl pants that I own from Jo Knit Sew, and they are the comfiest thing imaginable. I love them. Next, I will, again, I've been a bit of a sport brat, and I've won things from 3 different places. Yeah. So, I bought quite a number of raffle tickets. So in October, Treasure Chest, I think it's YGC, raised money for a breast cancer support unit within a North Wales hospital. I might have got that wrong, but I'll link to all the details in my show notes. And she does, every Sunday in October, she does a 12-hour raffle via Just Giving. It's £2 a ticket, and there's lots of makers that are involved. So I held off until the 4th of the raffles, and I donated / bought raffle tickets, quite a few raffle tickets for that one raffle, rather than spreading my money over the 4. So I've donated as much as I would have done, but I just donated in that final raffle. And I won 4 prizes from that raffle. Two of them I received, two of them I haven't yet received. One of them is a hat that someone's making for me, which is amazing. I have received one specific thing, which is some, sorry for the glare, some Jingly Bell stitch markers from George Stitched It. She's on Instagram, so at George underscore stitched underscore it stitch markers, which are lovely. I don't know if I'm going to keep these or put them in my own giveaway, but because I've got quite a lot of stitch markers, but these are beautiful, really well made. I then also received 3 patterns from the Yarn Ambassador, I think is what her branding name is. So I'll pop a picture here and pop her name here. And then I'm waiting on a couple more, which I'll show you in the next podcast. I also, honestly, spoiled brat, won an advent calendar from the Knitting Goddess. So the Knitting Goddess put up that they were doing do-it-yourself advent calendars. Sorry, I'm just moving some stuff here so I can show it to you, which are basically, and all the felt numbers have moved, they are like stitch on, choose your colours, little pockets, those are little pockets, 24, to make your own advent calendar. And she does them in different colours, which is the Pride Trans, you can do all together, and the regular kind of red and green Christmassy colours for your numbers. And I popped it in and said, hello, I'd like to take, it's just an Instagram giveaway. So yes, so literally you just commented and said which colour you wanted. And I think I said I don't mind Pride or Trans. I said I don't mind, just I can't remember. I bet I was just like, whatever. I'd love to win. So I got the trans flag colourway, which is the pink, white, and blue, which is really cool. And I'm going to be making that and using that to make Amelia a kind of handmade advent calendar this year. So she's got a chocolate one that she was given by one of the great aunts at Thanksgiving, but I think it'd be nice for her to have something that she can have every day that's not chocolate. So I'm slowly kind of buying her little bits, like little decorations she can put on the tree, or a little activity, or things that will go in that pocket, basically. Or if it's too big to go in that pocket, it'll be a little clue about where it is and I'll hide it somewhere in the house. That's the plan. But my plan is, because she's 3.5 and they have no self-control, I'm only going to fill the pocket for the day on the day. Because then she gets something every day and isn't just emptying it all 24 out on day 1. That's the plan anyway, and it gives me more time to buy for like days 12 to 24. So yes, that. What else? And then another picture, which I'm going to pop here. I was one of the prize winners for the Monster Sock Cowl. So my stripy Monster Sock socks that I showed you in the last podcast, I won loads of Knit Picks Felici, which I've never tried, and I'm quite looking forward to trying for socks. So it's all in the freezer. I can't show you right now. Here's a picture. And I think that's all my new things. Oh, the other thing I haven't told you about, and I'm not going to ruin the surprise for a lot of people, but where is it? I am participating in the Wham Cal this year. I have opened it, I have seen what the yarn looks like. So this is run by the Yarn Badger, and Liz basically is taking doing a knitting version of Whamageddon. So for those of you who don't know what Whamageddon is, Wham, the band from the 80s, George Michael and I can't remember the other guy's name, released a song called Last Christmas. It is a very iconic, much played and quite annoying, once you've heard it like 5,000 times during December, Christmas song. And so someone, I have no idea who, created this game called Whamageddon that you have to get through days 1 to 24 of December without hearing this song. And that's actually really hard. So Whamageddon, there's a Facebook page which kind of comes up, it kind of, they start posting in it around now, and then it all, that you basically play the game, and then when you hear the song, you have to be honest and you say, I got whammed today or whatever. So this card came in the thing and it said, one side is the Wham Cal Survivor, and then the other side is I got whammed, and you put the date in December that you heard the blooming song. So Lizzie the Yarn Badger has taken this and given it a yarny spin. I don't know if this is the first year she's done it. I saw this post and went, I'm doing this. She's self-striping queen. So what you do is you use the main Gobstopper ball of self-striping yarn and you knit a stripe on your socks every day in December. And when you hear that song, you have a contract where you have a mini, and you have to knit with that mini to show when you got whammed, basically. And obviously if you don't get whammed, you don't use the mini, you just keep knitting your socks. So yeah, so that's the plan. That's what I'm going to be doing every day in December is I'm going to be doing a square on my temperature blanket, and I'm going to be doing a stripe on these socks. And yeah, really looking forward to it. I'm not going to show you the yarn because I don't want to ruin the surprise. Some people will want to open it on the 1st of December and start and have it as a real surprise, but I wanted to put it in the freezer because that's what I do. So it's in the freezer. Right, that is my new things. So Spotlight. This was something I spotlighted in the previous incarnation of this podcast, which never saw the light of day. So it's a little bit late now, but I still want to talk about it. So Rachel, who is Pocket Giraffe Knits on Instagram, she has got a podcast, but she hasn't podcasted recently, I don't think. I think she prefers doing lives and videos on Instagram stories. She is an advocate for mental health, let's say, due to some challenges that she has herself. So we had World Mental Health Day on, and I think it was the 10th of October, or the 14th of October, I cannot remember, it's the 14th or the 10th. World Mental Health Day, which was a month after World Suicide Prevention Day. And she ran a 14-day event along... It was a 14-day kind of thing called Sparks of Joy Every Day. I've got that right, haven't I? Yeah, Sparks of Joy Every Day, and then we had a hashtag. And she asked everyone to, for those 14 days, post what their sparks of joy were. You didn't have to take part every day, but look out for those moments of friendship, love, joy, that actually just gave you a bit of a warm fuzzy feeling and lifted you out of any particular blues or funk that you were feeling, and gave your mental health a bit of a boost. And I make no secret of the fact that I'm in therapy at the moment, and my mental health has not been the best over the last year and a half, I would say. And I'm doing something about it. I see a cognitive behavioural therapist. She's awesome. We have worked through quite a lot of stuff already, and we've got using our last 4 sessions. I'm very lucky that I get her support through Bupa, through Chris's work. And we've got 10 sessions, and we've got the last 4 that we're working through. One particular thing that's probably going to be the biggest thing for me. No, the biggest things we've worked through and I'm feeling a lot more positive about. But this one is a bit of a sticking point, let's say. So I am all for finding joy in every day. So I took part in it, and it was fab, and I would urge you to go and have a look at the hashtag on Instagram. Now, I did save some of my stories that I did, but I did partially stories and partially grid posts. So there is a highlight in my Sophie Swan profile on Instagram, but there's also a highlight in Rachel's Pocket Giraffe Knits, and she reposted most people's stuff on her story, so do go and have a look at that, because there's just some lovely things. My favourite is not mine, and that's Joe from Feather and Threads. Took a picture of a pigeon in front of a squirrel, or a squirrel in front of a pigeon, and it literally looked like it was like a hybrid of those two things, and she posted it and went, "This is really cool." I just looked up and saw it and took a picture, and Rachel just went, "It's a squidgeon!" And literally that will stay with me for the rest of my life to make me happy, of like the picture of the squidgeon. Anyway, it made me chuckle. So yeah, do go and have a look on that, because we shouldn't need a challenge, a 14-day challenge to try and find joy in every day. But some of us do. Some of us do need that daily reminder that actually look out for the small things. Like, look out for the like, some of my ones were so like the things I do. Like, my first day was going to bar fitness. Like, I've been to bar fitness this morning. I love going to bar fitness. It is one of the highlights of my week, because I get to do a little bit of exercise. It's not hardcore. It's a lovely group of people. Gemma, who runs it, I count her as a friend, and it's just a really nice way to spend 45 minutes on a Thursday morning. Yeah. But it's not until you kind of talk about it and say, actually, this is one of the things that keeps me going. There were, like, I documented some of the little things that Amelia and I went to do. So, on the way home from school, there's a hill outside a town called Farringdon, which has a folly on the top of it. So a giant tower, like literally like this giant thin tower. And the story behind it is hilarious. And there's like wooden sculptures all around, and there's a giraffe's head poking out of a tree, and it's a hilarious place to spot. But we've never been to it before, and it's just down, like, it's not far from her school. And it was, yeah. So it was really nice documenting those things, because it reminded me actually how much there is on day-to-day that just brings me joy and keeps me going. So yeah, go and have a look. It's a really lovely hashtag to go and have a look on. Right, life update. We've just had half term, as I've just said, which is why I haven't podcasted in a month. Because we have 2 weeks off with my little girl's school in October half term, which is great. And one of those weeks, all the kind of like toddler groups and other activities are on, because schools, for the majority, most of the state schools in this area in Oxfordshire are off one of those weeks, not both of those weeks. There are some state schools in some areas that have 2 weeks off. I know that Ali's eldest daughter, Lilia, had 2 weeks off this half term. So some state schools do it, some private schools do it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we had 2 weeks off. So the first week was fine because we had things to do and we had toddler groups still on and all that kind of stuff. The second week, not so much. So we went to my mum's in Kent for a couple of days. It had been her birthday the previous week, so we went and spent a night at my mum's, took her out for lunch, got to see my brother. We had a breakthrough with my brother and Amelia, because Amelia's always been a bit scared of him. They were fine, which was really nice. And then my dad came down for a day, just to come and see us, and I had a dentist appointment on that day, so he took her off to the local playground in the town where my dentist is. Again, breakthrough. She would not have done that a couple of months ago, so her confidence has grown. I think spending the time with him in France over the holiday really helped. She knew who I was talking about when I said Grandad was coming to stay. Brilliant. So that was really nice. It was really nice to see my dad as well, because I haven't seen him since going to France. Like, we've chatted, but not actually seen him in person, so that was lovely. As I said, we went down to my mother-in-law's the middle weekend for Thanksgiving. So we've seen pretty much all the grandparents apart from Chris's dad, but we're seeing him in a month, so that's fine. Amelia and I went and did lots of things. So Chris had the first week of half term off, so we went to London and went to the Science Museum. That's changed. I haven't been for about 9-10 years, but oh my god, the Science Museum's changed. So that was I'm not going to say disappointing, because there's a lot of stuff and it was busy because of half term, and we probably shouldn't have gone, because half of the country was on half term the first week and half of the country was on half term in the second week. We probably shouldn't have, should have thought about that and thought about how busy it was going to be. So some of the things that Amelia could do was overrun by small kids, and she got overwhelmed with that. And then we went to the Princess Diana Memorial Playground in Kensington Gardens after lunch, and that was really cool. It's relatively new, in the last 5-6 years I think it's been built, maybe a bit longer than that. But it's got a huge pirate ship in the middle of it. There's a sensory garden with lots of little musical things. There's some teepees that you can just sit in and relax. There's slides, there's climbing frames, there's all sorts of stuff. So that was really nice and she enjoyed herself. So that was good. We went for London. We went to Didcot Railway Centre and went to saw the trains. So we did loads of stuff, and it basically meant that if I want to podcast in the day and be as exuberant as I want to be, it's harder to do that in the evening because I podcast in my craft room, which is one of our bedrooms upstairs. Amelia's room is literally there across the, like, we've got the wall, then the staircase, then her bedroom. So I don't like to podcast at night just in case I disturb her. So that means that I try and podcast in the day, but obviously if I'm with her in the day then I can't podcast. So yeah, so it's fun having time with my little girl when she's not at school, but it means that things like the podcast fall by the wayside a little bit. So, but yeah, it was really nice. And now we're back into the routine again. She's gone up half a day again at preschool, so she's now in 3 full days, which is 8:30 till 3:30, so not really full days, and then one morning on a Friday. So yeah, so she's really loving that, loving being back at school and back into her routine. It means I'm now back into my routine of going to the gym twice a week, going to bar. I've got Pilates on a Tuesday evening. I'm increasing what I'm doing with the tutoring company at the moment, so that's really exciting. So yeah, and now we are just over 6 months away from my triathlon, so I need to get running. Yeah, don't know when I'm gonna get that done, but we'll try. So yes, so yeah, that's life. I have no idea how long this podcast is gonna be because my camera's been flicking on and off, and I apologise if some of the editing is a little bit rough. But yeah, it's we're back into routine, but now into the run up to Christmas. So November I know is going to disappear. It already is. It's the 7th today. Yes. And I'm like, how are we already at the 7th of November? We're going to fireworks this weekend because 2 days ago was bonfire night. Yeah, I'm really lucky that I have a child that doesn't get disturbed at night by fireworks, because there's been some like proper big bangs around here, but she doesn't wake up. Helpfully, I set off the fire alarm a couple of weeks ago, and that did wake her up. So there is this thing that apparently children just don't wake up to fire alarms and smoke alarms. Ours is suitably loud enough that it woke up Amelia, so that's good. I felt so awful. I felt so bad, but actually it's an experiment in making sure that she can wake up to it. Tick. Still not fun, but yes. So yes, that's that, and then yeah, so that's us. So yes, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, general love, pop them in the comments below, or come over and chat to us in our in the Ravelry group. We have got an introductions thread in there. Come and take part in Whip Rip 2019. We'd love to have you come and join us. If you wanted to get in touch with me, easiest way of doing that is via the Ravelry messages. I tend to see those more than I see Instagram messages. My notifications on my phone are going a bit weird at the moment, so Ravelry is the best place. If not, you can email me which is sophie@spring-snowflake.co.uk. Yes, my husband set me up a proper email address rather than the Gmail one. It goes into my Gmail one, but it's a proper email address. So sophie@spring-snowflake.co.uk. There we go. So you can email me there, or you can send me a message on Ravelry. I think that's it. Yeah, I'm going to go and tidy up. And I need to go into town for something, and I can't remember what I need to go into town for. Oh, I need to get to the post office. There we go. So I'm going to wrap up these gifts and send them off to the post office and go and buy some yarn for leg warmers. Yeah. Right. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for staying till the end. Those of you who have, if you have stayed to the end, you have my eternal gratitude. and I will see you on the next one. Like, it's not gonna be a month this time. I'm hoping 2 weeks, but don't hold me to it. I'll see you soon. Bye!